And we are ready.
Thank you. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. So if we could all please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag
of the
of the
United
United States of America,
States
to the republic
for
for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty.
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. So if Kristen, you could call roll call, please.
Bruce Angel.
Yep.
Tim Dean.
Here.
Mike Thomas.
Here.
Jan Berg.
Here.
And Yvonne Van Ornum.
Here.
And prior to approval of our agenda, it was my understanding that there might be some changes on that. Can I defer to you, Mark, just for a moment on that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So under new business, item 2, the Arlington and Lakewood School District capital facility plans. Tonight, I would request that we make this an action item. As you remember, back on October 4th, we had a presentation by the school districts on their capital facilities plans. It was open to the Planning Commission for comment at that period in time. Because of scheduling, because we put in an emergency meeting in between our regular meetings as a special meeting, that did not get forwarded to our next regular meeting to take an action on. And so I'm requesting this evening that we do take action on the Arlington School District and Lakewood School District capital facilities plans so that the findings of fact and recommendation from Planning Commission go forward to City Council.
Okay. And then item number 2 on design review, are we going to be talking about that, or would you like to go ahead and leave it on the agenda for now?
No, I'd like to be able to leave it on the agenda and then we'll discuss that when it comes up.
So Chair requests a motion for approval of the agenda with changes to item number 2 in new business.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
A second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed today. Thank you. So the next item will be approval of our consent agenda. So this is the minutes of the October 20th Planning Commission meeting and the November 3rd Planning Commission workshop.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Any second?
A second.
Thank you. All in favor for approval of consent agenda? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so unanimous. Thank you. We're moving right along then, and we'll go to design review. Planning Commission serves as a design review board. On item number 1, we were talking about unique interiors, which is PLN number 617.
So yes, the applicant Dave Road is seeking design review approval to remodel the existing exterior facade to the current interior building at 126 McLeod Avenue. The proposed building will be consistent with the general mercantile use, which is allowable in Old Town Business District 1 with the tenants facing east. Staff reviewed the subject application that was submitted on September 30th of 2019, and then subsequent resubmittals on September 29th, 2020, as well as November 10th, 2020. It's based off these findings. Staff has provided these conditions. Buildings should not orient large areas of blank walls to the street. This still needs to be provided on the southern and western elevations. Use modulation and articulation and clear rhythm to reduce perceived size of all large buildings. Again, southern and western elevations need to be addressed. And again, in general, buildings should be divided given human scale using articulation and modulations of 40 to 50 foot intervals. And staff is recommending revisions be made prior to design review board accepting and approving the design review application for unique interiors PLN 617.
Thank you, Josh. What I'd like to do at this point is just open the floor for a random discussion on design standards for unique interiors.
Essentially, nothing different than the last time this was presented, so I don't know what else we would discuss that we didn't discuss at the last meeting.
Well, I think one thing that I want to put forward tonight is section 10 from our design or matrix talks specifically about the character and massing, articulation, and modulation. And one of the things that you had put in here from the staff is that use, modulation, and articulation in a clear rhythm to reduce the perceived size of all large buildings, which is section 10.1.4.1. And again, with 10.1.4.2 talks generally, in general, buildings should be divided and given human scale by using articulation and or modulation at 40 and 50 foot maximum intervals. One thing that I have wanted to kind of point out, and perhaps we can sort of stress this towards the folks at Unique Interiors, is that we have pretty much held every commercial building in the city to this standard. And that's one of the reasons why I want to emphasize that standard in particular, is that hopefully that this will help them, especially with section 10.1. That's all I have to say on this one today.
I concur with that. I went back, in fact, I printed them out and looked at the design standards, and yeah, I think that's very clear as a standard to meet.
So any other conversation we need about it?
I'm in agreement also.
Okay. So at this point, I believe that chair is requesting a motion.
I move that the Design Review Board remand Unique Interiors PON 617 back to staff as contained in staff recommendation.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed today? No opposed. So we're unanimous on that. And then moving right along, we will go to design review number 2, Roxy Project PLN 757.
The applicant Panatoni Development proposes to construct a single 100-foot tall industrial building and related auxiliary structures consisting of approximately 2.82 million square feet on approximately 72 acres in the light industrial zone. The use of the facility, a distribution center, is permitted in the light industrial zone, and the project site falls within a regionally designated manufacturing center known as the Cascade Industrial Center. Site improvements include approximately 1,250 parking stalls, 314 trailer parking stalls, 51 truck loading bays, and landscape improvements. Utility improvements will include stormwater drainage, sanitary sewer, domestic fire and water connections, and loop around the site. This is based off of the design review application submitted on September 30th, 2020, and based off of the submittal of September 30, 2020, staff has provided these conditions. Buildings should not orient large areas of blank walls to the street. Ends of our building shall be designed and articulated with windows and other architectural elements, incorporating artwork on the wall surface or incorporating decorative tile, masonry, or varying materials or patterns. Provide clear pedestrian entries from the street and not just from adjacent parking areas. Compose architectural elements to add interest to the building facade. Use modulation and articulation in a clear rhythm. Reduce perceived size of all large buildings. And in general, buildings should be divided and given human scale using articulation or modulation at 40 to 50 foot intervals. And no buildings have large areas of blank wall surfaces facing the street. Use architectural elements and to enhance the building face. Staff is recommending revisions be made prior to approving the conditions, the design review application for Project Roxy PLN 757.
Thank you, Josh. Again, I'd like to go ahead and open the floor for random discussion concerning Roxy project.
Again, this is a design we saw at the last meeting, and there have been, as I understand it, no substantial changes.
There's not been any changes submitted to staff.
And staff is recommending that we do, again, that this go back to staff for negotiation on the revisions required to meet the design standard.
And thank you, Bruce. And I think what I would like to do is add a little bit more to it is citing the two pieces of the matrix that I talked about earlier. I'd like to add one more to this one, and that's the part about 10.1.4.3 about, you know, that there are a number of ways of articulating a building to divide its masses and reduce its apparent size. And, you know, some are listed, and of course, at this point, you know, this building would probably need something that would match what is already there. But I do feel that it's upon the builder here, Panattoni, to, you know, come up with a way to articulate the building so to divide it up its masses. So that being said, any other further comment?
Yeah, one comment that the applicant made, that they felt that the design standards were more for, I guess, a neighborhood, not really pertaining to their large scale building. And that's what prompted me to go back and reread them, especially the sections that you're pointing out, Chair Dean, and I fully concur with you. I think that the design standards do address the concerns that we have, and give them, excuse me, an opportunity to come up with solutions so that the building does look more than just a big box.
Okay. Any other?
I concur also.
Thank you, Mike. So if there's no further discussion, Chair would request a motion.
I move that that the project Roxy PLN 757 be sent back to staff for negotiation on suggested revisions.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? None opposed, so that also is unanimous. So moving on to new business. The next item, number 1 in new business, is Arlington School District Alley vacation discussion. So vacating an alley, is that?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. So I don't know that any of you have been through a vacation process. So I just want to give you a little background to this, the process moving forward. This is a short plat that was submitted by the Arlington School District. And what this does is it's separating out the A building, the old high school, from the remainder of the property. During review of this short plat, there were multiple things that came up. Easements need to be created, identifying certain utilities. But I want you to notice that in the bottom left corner here, there's an unopened right-of-way in that location where the cursor's at. So during the review, really what jumped out is that there are storm drainage facilities within that right-of-way, privately owned by the school district. And so it really came up to the point that this alley doesn't serve a necessary need because it can't continue anywhere because the building is in the way of it continuing to the south. And with the private utilities within the unopened right-of-way, staff deemed it was actually in the best interest of the city to vacate this unopened right-of-way and have it revert back to the school district. And so we are initiating this vacation of the right of way. And so in the process, I'm just giving you this as an FYI as to what's coming up in the process. So the city staff will create a staff report moving forward and a resolution to city council requesting the vacation of the right of way. Council will then act on that resolution and refer this back to planning commission for their review and recommendation. Once planning commission takes an action on this, it then goes back to city council with the staff report with an ordinance, and goes to a public hearing at city council. So those are the steps that this has to take in order for this vacation to be completed. Any questions about the process or in the area in general?
The only question I had, and this isn't, I don't think this pertains to, this might be off topic, I apologize, but is that, will they need to relocate the utilities or the drains there or anything, or can they just leave them there, or is that up to them once they own it?
Yeah, so one thing I'll identify here is that they have the drainage vaults and stuff that are in the right of way. Will you go to the next? Yeah, thank you. So if you see those structures that are in the alleyway there, the piece of property that's just below those structures is a large infiltration gallery. And that infiltration gallery is to handle the drainage from the Haller Middle School here.
Oh.
And so that has to stay in place. And so that has to be identified. That was one of the comments that came out of the review, is that the drainage facilities and all of those items had to be identified. There had to be easements created for that, so that if this property sold, the school district still has the right to go in on that property and maintain that drainage facility. So there's a pretty good laundry list of items that had to occur with this short plat in the revision.
Thank you.
And I will point out that typically when we're looking at doing right-of-way vacations, it's usually initiated by a private party, and we go through an evaluation of what the value is, if any, of the right-of-way. That then is offered up to both of the adjacent property owners to purchase the property. Being as how these are two government agencies, the city of Arlington and the Arlington School District, and no taxes are paid on these properties, it didn't make any sense to have to do a valuation of the property for this unopened right-of-way, which we typically would if it were a private party. So,
Thank you. Any further questions? No? All right, thank you. I think we'll move on to item number 2 in new business, which is Arlington School District and Lakewood School District capital facility plan discussion. And then we'll take action on that this evening.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to give you a little background history on this. Typically what we do when these comp plan amendments come through, they're dealt with during our docket process during the year. School districts, however, have the ability, and it's in an RCW 36.70A.130, allows for a school district to do their comp plan for their capital facilities plans 3 different ways. One is either through the jurisdiction's comprehensive plan amendment process, the docket, through an emergency ordinance, or through the RCW. And the RCW allows for the district to, I'll read you the RCW. So this is section 2, item 4. The amendment of the capital facilities element of a comprehensive plan that occurs concurrently with the adoption or amendment of a county or city budget. So this is the process that they have chosen to do their capital facilities plans from here on out. They want to be, because all the other jurisdictions they're dealing with do their adoption of the capital facilities plans through their budgeting process. So they just want to be consistent with their other jurisdictions, with the county also. And so that's why they've chosen to go this process. Given what happened with us this year with our docket and how it was delayed, it became very apparent that, you know, this may be their better route anyways. And so this will go to City Council, to the workshop to be presented on November 23rd, and then continue on to a public hearing on December 7th. So it will be at the same public hearing as the adoption of the city plan. And so asking tonight that we do take an action this evening and recommend the adoption of the Arlington and Lakewood School District capital facilities plans.
All right, before we have a motion, is there any discussion?
Just a question, Mr. Chairman. The part I didn't get is they do want to do this permanently to go through the budget process rather than the docket process.
Correct.
Are we going to do it similar to the way we're doing now, that planning commission is in the line someplace?
Most likely not. And I'm glad you brought that up. So since this is a new process, we've never done this before. Because of the requirement for continuous public participation, and not knowing where we were in our docketing process and just what was going to happen, that's when I involved the planning commission in with this process. The RCW does not require planning commission approval. It can go straight to
Right.
city council to be heard and then to a public hearing at city council. So,
Because the only thing that comes to mind is there have been some cases in recent approvals of the two school districts where there were some significant questions about the direction they were going.
correct.
And between staff and commission asking the questions, we were able to at least get answers or a change in direction.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we can't involve the planning commission. I'm just saying it's not a requirement
Yeah.
by the RCW, but yes, this definitely could come to planning
Yeah.
commission whenever the request is made.
Because there is a relationship between the school district projections and our land use.
Correct.
And I don't know how much communication there is apart from our being able to talk about it. I don't know how much, whether the department talks to the school district. or-
You know, actually, going through the planning commission, having the planning commission review it and provide a recommendation, to me, is the best of both worlds. And so, yeah, we want to continue this process. I'm fully supportive of that.
Thank you. In fact, that was a question I was going to present to you as well, Mark, is this going to come before us again in the future? So it sounds like it could come before us, which I guess we'll know that in another 5 years, right?
Well, 2 years, because it's synced with our budget process. So it's a biennial approval process, an amendment process.
Okay.
So every time the budget comes up for review and adoption, you'll have the school district doing the same thing.
Okay.
So every 2 years, you'll get to view this.
Great. Any further questions or comments? Okay. I'd like Chair requests a motion.
Are you considering these together? Or do they
No,
require?
the individuals.
Okay, I move that the planning commission recommend approval of the Arlington School District Capital Facility Plan for 2025.
Thank you. All in favor? Or I need a second first, excuse me.
I'll second.
Thank you. And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. So that would be unanimous. And Bruce, would you indulge us one more time, please?
Oh, sure. I move that the planning, I don't know if I can remember how to do this. I move that the Planning Commission recommend to council passage of the Lakewood School District Capital Facility Plan for 2025.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Seconded and all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? None. So we're unanimous on that as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
You bet. And then, Kristen, were there any public comments or any members of the public who wish to speak to the commission regarding matters on the planning commission meeting agenda?
There's
Or
no public comment this evening.
Perfect. All right. Sounds like we had a very productive and quick meeting today. So,
I do have a question.
okay,
Is this the time to ask?
this is a good time.
I was just reminded when I was going through the meeting minutes, did I miss the meeting between City Council and Planning Commission and Parks Commission?
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, yeah, I was gonna ask too.
That is occurring this upcoming Monday night. So it will be held, and you should have received the invite, which apparently you did not.
I'll follow up with.
Yeah. Well, it should.
You just checked it too to make sure, but can I just make sure that, yeah, it's my personal email, not my work email that maybe it's going to, but I got the doodle one to my personal one, but I didn't see an invite.
Okay. Yeah, we'll follow up on that, Yvonne. But yes, it will be held this upcoming Monday at 6 o'clock.
And Mark, that'll be prior to the
Council meeting,
regular council meeting, is that correct?
correct. Yeah, the council workshop. Thank you for jogging my memory on that.
Yeah. Any further questions before we? Okay, chair requests motion for adjournment.
A motion that we adjourn?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you.
All right, all right.